What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Hey, everybody. I am Love Coach Scott Catamas. Welcome to the Awakening World. It's our Wednesday night show, and we have a great show planned. It's been a big couple of weeks, hasn't it? Only 8 days since the election. And since then, I've had the honor of hosting 3 really powerful shows. And I think most of you participated in some or maybe even all of those shows. Well, tonight we kind of shift back into 2 really wonderful topics. I've got my good friend Alan Steinfeld with me. He is doing an amazing job. He has become our intrepid reporter who actually made his way into the congressional hearings today in Washington, D.C. He still is in Washington, D.C. And there he was as these amazing hearings took place about UFO and UAP. So we're going to get a report from Alan in a minute. And then we've got a great topic, which actually I want to thank Alan again for suggesting: embodied spirituality. How do we really bring our higher self into the body? And we are really happy to have with us returning Dr. Tara, who is going to share tips, tools, and practices and her wisdom. And we also have with us Ashlea, who is a new friend, but a great, great new contributor to the Global Peace Tribe. And a little bit later on, we're going to meet Melissa Love, who will be joining us. And tonight's going to be one of those shows where we have a lot of Q&A. So get ready to think about your questions you might have, and I'll keep an eye on the chat box for that. I want to thank everybody who's watching on YouTube, including Alan's own New Realities TV channel, YouTube channel, and all of our friends watching on Facebook. Thank you to the Sign Network for getting us out to as many as 200 Facebook groups and pages. Now, there's other really special thing tonight, which is kind of exciting for Omashar, a little sad for us. Omashar is leaving for Peru tomorrow, and we hope that he will not get abducted by aliens, and he'll be back in about 10 days. But this is his last show for a couple of weeks. So really want to enjoy our time with him. He will be doing 3 songs, starting with one right now. Can't hear you, bro.
Yes, that would help. So namaste and welcome everybody. And as we know, at the base of Lake Titicaca, there is a massive craft that has been sitting there for eons. And occasionally it shows its etheric body. And so there may be a chance of me being taken up, but I will look forward to that. And without further ado, let's have a little songy. illuminate yourself with the waves of love passing through. Think of anything. You're the one you're waiting for. We have now received all the blessings of all time. Come and celebrate what we've all become. Life is you, love is you, be all that you are. Show the world you are true, and all the earth will rise and answer you. No need to hesitate. Open hearts can walk right through. There is no door or gate that could hold your love at bay. We encourage you to hold only to what is true. Your life is yours to make. All your wildest dreams come true. Life is you, love is you, and be all that you are. Show the world you are true, and all the earth will rise and answer you. Life is you, love is you, and be all that you are. Show the world you are true, and all the earth will rise and answer you.
That's all Twinkle, our beloved brother Omar Shar. I love that song so much.
Me too. And I wasn't feeling any sadness until you said, I'm leaving. I'm not. I'm taking myself with myself. So I'm all right. However, I still felt it.
Well, there is something about that song, especially the flute, that kind of goes along, with an Amazon Peruvian kind of feel.
It absolutely does. And I'm taking my larger flutes down with me as well. I'm taking a conch shell and a drum and my keyboard. So I'll be having a big backpack, like about 90 pounds worth. So
Wow.
there we go.
Well, a reminder that even though he will not be on the Awakening World for a couple of weeks,
Three shows.
3 shows. He'll be missing 3 shows, and he sent us a video. So we're going to play a video in at least one of those shows, maybe 2. You can get his albums, and this is the time to do this. Let us manage our Omar Shar fix by going to omashar.bandcamp.com and picking up his albums. They're all wonderful. I especially like Illuminate, but I'm an illuminated kind of guy. So omashar.bandcamp.com, and we will be having more Omashar experiences, 2 more songs tonight. So thank you, Omashar.
Thank you, Omashar.
Well, who is that voice? I'm going to bring that guy up because it's his turn, but I want to really put some acknowledgement. Now, Alan's probably been on the show a dozen times by now. He, of course, is the author of Making Contact, which is the book. He is the creator of the New Realities YouTube channel, which is the place to go for all things really that are new reality. And you knocked it out of the park today, bro. Getting into the congressional hearing with your cell phone, interviewing key people. And we had this wonderful watch party that I participated in. I think a lot of global peace drivers were there with Zenka. But Alan, give us a little bit of a review for people who weren't there about what took place today.
Well, I want to acknowledge Tara for being there online on the journey with me there. And it was a moment in history. This is the second hearing in 50 years about the topic of UFOs that congressional leaders have talked to experiencers and insiders about what's really going on. And at this hearing, suddenly I thought the congressional members were getting the sense that this is real. They've been lied to. They've been by there's sort of a battle. It's the Democrats and the Republicans are joining forces to come together to investigate the Pentagon and the people holding the secrets about UFOs. So it is really bringing, in a sense, the country together. This really diverse, divided energy that have separated these parties in polar extremes, like we saw in the last election. You couldn't get any more extreme than that. And people we all know were on either one side or the other. This issue, like, is this a reality? Are UFOs real? Are aliens real? Are they here? This is bringing the Congress, the government, the executive branch. I don't know about the judicial branch, but the legislative branch. Chuck Schumer has an amendment up for the National Defense Authorization Act, acknowledging UAPs, the UAP Disclosure Act, that's still in the works there. So the members of Congress who are asking people like Lou Elizondo, who was an inside intelligence officer who wrote a book that I showed a couple of weeks ago, Eminent, New York Times bestseller for the last 10 weeks, which is pretty amazing. And he was on the panel being asked questions. It was a guy named Michael Schallenberg who wrote an article, forgot where, but he was a pretty mainstream reporter. And he was talking to some UFO whistleblowers about this secret government project called Immaculate, what was it? Immaculate Constellation. Thank you. Immaculate Constellation. And that was something no one had heard of before. And so he comes out with the story, and Congress is saying, what are you talking about? How come we haven't heard about this? Because money is being spent against or without congressional oversight, and that's illegal. And this is what was addressed today. How could things be happening that do not have congressional oversight? So suddenly the Congress is realizing we need to join forces, Democrats and Republicans, not against the Pentagon, but to join forces to investigate who is behind, who's keeping the secrets, basically. And that was one of the questions, which I thought was a little bit ridiculous. Representative Garcia talks to these panelists, Elizondo, Schallenberg, Gallaudet, who was an admiral, and this guy Gold, who was working with NASA. He asked them, well, do you think the government is not telling us something? That was something like the question. And I was saying to the person next to me, he is the government. Why is he asking these people who aren't the government if the government's hiding something? Well, don't ask Ask the people who are higher ups in the government. Ask the military. Ask those people still in charge of the secret. That was a little frustrating, I have to say, about the whole hearings. Why are you asking these people, and why are you not asking the obvious questions? Who's lying to us? Who's not telling us the truth? Who's supporting these illegal programs? These were not questions. And tell us about the nature of this alien visit. And one more thing that was not addressed is the experiencer. And we talked to Whitley Strieber about a few weeks ago, and he's always upset that in these congressional hearings, the people who are connecting to the phenomena are never brought forth. It's all these nuts and bolts, hardware weapons guys, and that's really not what the phenomena is about. And that is beginning to be suspicious or suspected by the ones who are just asking the congressional leaders in these hearings. Why are they here? So my next book, my last book was Making Contact, right, Ashley? You have my book there?
Actually, I'm going to pull it up right here, Alan.
Pull it out.
This book,
And that's
slowing down for a minute. Slow down, Alan.
Okay.
Just remind people before you talk about the next book.
Right.
If you don't have it yet, this is the classic book. It's an anthology with really many of the top leaders that Alan knows, is good friends with, sharing their wisdom. And you can get it on Amazon. It's available as an audiobook or as a hardcover book. Find it on Amazon. Just go to Making Contact. It comes right up. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
No, thank you, Scott. Thank you for that. So that book was a kind of primer for all aspects of the UFO phenomenon. It's a compilation of 12 different people talking about all facets of the phenomena as an overview. And I put that together because no one person knows what's really going on. That is one of the reasons the government's not coming out with this, because they don't know what to say. No one has all the answers. It's like the pieces of the elephant we're trying to put together, but we don't have the whole picture. So the only way to really make sense of it or to start to understand what's going on is we need many different perspectives. So that's a preparation. But what I'm working on now is the secret behind the secret. You know what that is, Scott?
What's that?
That is the experiencers, the abductions, the contact. This is what Congress and the Pentagon are avoiding talking about, except occasionally it comes up with biological effects. They acknowledge that these UAPs have affected people biologically, psychologically, and neurologically. So that's sort of in the record, but it's not really the focus. And I do think that is the focus of the phenomena. To somehow, I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's to upgrade us. It's to evolve our human species to a higher vibration, to open up more parts of our neurological perception. Because it seems like there is a part of the brain called the catapultum near the hypothalamus that is overdeveloped or more developed in contactees and remote viewers. And they have this, and I think it's an antenna to, is my interpretation, to a higher vibrational reality. Maybe we'll talk about that tonight a little bit. So that's just a little overview of what I got from that. The other exciting thing was the people that were there at the Congress, there were about 20 UFO podcasts. It was podcast heaven there for UFO people, but people like Randall Nickerson, who did the film The Aerial School. Ron James was there, who did Accidental Truth. James Fox was there. These are some of the superstars of our league. Robert Salas, who was the first person to report UFOs over nuclear weapon sites in 1967. Maelstrom Air Force Base in Montana. He said these nuclear air warheads were turned off and there's a UFO overhead. And that started this whole connection that's being made now by some people between nuclear proliferation and UFOs and how they are really here to stop us playing with those toys. That's one interpretation. And I do think there's something to that. So we'll do a show about that.
Yeah, we'll do a whole show on that. Absolutely.
So the exciting thing was to bring the community together, watch Congress sort of squirm in a sense, because they're not getting to the core of it, but they're suspecting there's more, and seeing what this is going to lead to. This is the beginning of an evolution. And Danny Sheehan was right there, right on top of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to say, and we'll do a whole show about that. But thanks, Scott.
Let's all twinkle Alan for the incredible work this guy does. I'm going to go to gallery view. Alan, we love you, we respect you, we appreciate you, and thank you so much.
Thank you
for your amazing work. And now you get to introduce our guests, starting with Tara.
I just want to say, if people want to see that whole program that I did today and the whole watch party, you go to New Realities. It's up there, all 4 hours of this, including the pre-congressional hearings, where I interviewed people like Chris Bledsoe and Danny Sheehan and Jim Garrison. All right, enough about. There it is.
There it is. So for everybody watching, if you're not subscribed yet, definitely do that. Just go to New Realities on YouTube, type in New Realities, it'll come right up for you. Subscribe. And look at just the quality of videos. He carried our big event that we did on Monday night. I hope all of you watched it. If any of you missed it, go back and watch this one, our big event that we did, Unity Now. We had Bashar, Deralenka, Elizabeth April, Marianne Williamson, and a dozen amazing people, including Omashar, who kind of closed us out. Dan Sheehan, there he is, his comment before going into the hearings, and then the actual hearings. So, and carrying us right now, there we are. So New Realities is the place to go. And Alan, thank you. And while we're here, just look at all
that playlist there, New Realities host UFO. I've interviewed all the major UFO people in the field, and there's some of these are panels. There's me at Contact at the Desert, four panels in, and there's a bunch of stuff. I've sort of been obsessed with this subject. Once you get pulled down the rabbit hole, there's me and Hal Putoff. Anyway, we can talk forever about that, but let's get to tonight's show, Scott.
Absolutely. And thank you for the suggestion and the three lovely ladies that you have invited to be with us.
Yes, and three women, women of these archetypal understanding about the evolution of women in society. There's the maiden, the mother, the crone, and I think each of these women, although they're three different generations of women, they each have the wisdom of each of those phases, and what I like about all the women speaking today is that they understand spirituality that needs to be embodied, needs to be grounded. For so many years, we've been in this a long time, Scott, people just want to leave, right? And you don't go anywhere if you want to leave the planet without completing the whole human cycle. And you don't ascend, as people say, until you love the vehicle of the body, until you are embodied. And these women that I know, some of them well, some of them not as well, talk about what embodied spirituality is. And I think you mentioned this is the next phase of where we're going as a spiritual culture. It's not about leaving. It's not about ascending. My teacher says ascension doesn't happen because you want to escape. It comes from a life well lived and well acknowledged and grounded in the physical. So I'll introduce our first guest today, who's one of my new favorite people. Well, it's been, I don't know, it feels like forever, Tara Deliberto. She is a trained psychologist. She has taught at Harvard, at Cornell. She has the key book about eating disorders and overcoming anorexia, and she is a specialist in that field, and now she's taking all that wisdom and bringing it into new technologies. And she, besides all that psychological background, she's had this awakening that brings her into that transcends the psychological. And she's gotten some feedback about this from her psychological companions, but she is grounded in a spirituality that then looks at the ego base and brings it back into who we are as human beings. So that's my good friend Tara Deliberto. Are we going to go with Tara now, and then I'll
We're
introduce?
going with Tara. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
What Tara has
How
to
was
say.
that, Tara? Was that a good introduction for you?
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Thanks, Alan. I appreciate that. Not that you need a rating from me. So Alan and I, for those of you who haven't seen it on the show before, became friends in a very unusual way. If you don't mind me just briefly sharing the story, we were at a conference. We didn't know each other. A conference called TCCHE. And I'm getting a little bit of feedback, by the way, on my end. Maybe should I maybe
I'm going to try muting Alan and see if
All
that
right.
works.
So we were at a conference called TCCHE, the Conference for Consciousness and Human Evolution. You can check it out, tcche.org. All of the great spiritual teachers of our time are essentially on faculty there. That's the way I think of it as an academic. And Alan, with his, we'll say, extra large brain, and I didn't catch the area of the brain that is involved in remote viewing, but I can probably guarantee that the part of Alan's brain that is involved with remote viewing is quite larger than the rest of ours. So he came right up to me, and he knew that I had created this system for what I call raising consciousness, essentially. We all call it raising consciousness. So really looking at the ego and how to overcome it. So we had this very in-depth conversation. And at the end, Alan said, we're going to be great friends. And we are. And we do lots of things together behind the scenes. And thank you so much for having me here, Scott. And thank you for inviting me, Alan. So what I can do is maybe start by explaining my work in eating disorders and how that really built a bridge into spirituality for me personally and then also professionally. So growing up in New York, I was a ballet dancer. I was an apprentice in a ballet company. And really, we were in no uncertain terms told that our bodies were not good enough and that they needed to look a certain way. And even if they did look that certain way, we could lose it at any moment if we just ate a cookie or a hamburger or something. And so we had to remain very vigilant about our bodies, because if they did not meet these standards, then these catastrophic things could happen to us. So just kind of thinking about that, there are aspects of this fear-based thinking throughout our entire culture when it comes to eating and body image, etc. So we're told that certain foods are bad, or that certain bodies are bad, and that our bodies are bad if we eat certain foods. Now, this is a pretty spiritual crowd. And just thinking about this dynamic from a spiritual perspective, right? We're all probably familiar with Dr. Emoto's work, which looks at how vibrations, when they go into water. So if you speak positive words to water, right, it crystallizes in a specific way. Or if you speak nice words to plants, they grow. Now imagine if you're thinking that the food that you're eating is bad and that your body is bad if you eat that food. Vibrationally, you're essentially poisoning your food and then eating it. And then thinking about your body as this negative thing is a very fear-based thing. So for me in my work, coming into the field of psychology after being a ballet dancer, it was really clear to me that we have a very big societal level problem when it comes to relating to food and our bodies. So when I was in graduate school, I was told that there's really no point in treating eating disorders because people want to lose weight, and you can't really help someone that doesn't want help. And you're just not really going to make a lot of money if you're helping people with eating disorders who don't want help. So we just don't really deal with eating disorders. That was the attitude. And coming from a background where I was a ballet dancer and I had seen people become very ill from not eating or even die, I thought, this isn't acceptable and somebody needs to do something about it. And nobody was really doing anything to really solve this problem. So I thought, okay, I really need to figure out how I can help here. So before I get too much further into it, how much more time do I have? I just want to be able to space this all out.
For your initial chat, we're asking each person to keep it to about 10 minutes. So for
Okay.
5 more minutes, but there's going to be lots of time for Q&A with you and everybody else.
Great. Okay. Perfect. I'm midway through it. Thank you, Scott. So, I created this treatment called integrative modalities therapy, or IMT, for eating disorders. And the concept was to look at our ideals, like the ideal of thinness, for instance, and come up with a method for getting from this fear-based, outcome-driven ideal to a process-oriented ideal based in love and truth, such as lovingly nourishing the body and accepting the way that it looks. So in that process of discovering how to move from this fear-based ideal into lovingly nourishing the body and accepting the way that it looks, I was able to crystallize this process of what it's like to go from these egoic ideals into higher consciousness ideals. And at that point where I started really doing the work to untether myself from all of these various egoic ideals that I had listed, I started very unexpectedly having mystical experiences that were not very embodied at all. In fact, probably the least embodied I'd ever been in a way. And so for several years, this was happening, for maybe about 5 years or so, 6 years. And it really reached a fever pitch in May of this year for me. And Alan actually was very helpful for me as a guide in figuring out how to go from those higher states of consciousness and integrate those bliss states into my everyday at, we'll say, a cellular level. And so when we are talking tonight about being fully embodied in our spirituality, I'm working at this from two ends. The first end being how to really develop a positive relationship to our body through having a positive relationship with food, nourishing ourselves, accepting the way our body looks. And also, as we learn to eat in this calm and empowered way, and we move up the levels of consciousness through living, again, in this calm and embodied way, we can have these mystical experiences that we learn to reintegrate into the body. So both accepting the body and, again, integrating these mystical experiences into the body and operating from that witness seat and serving, that's really what my work is about, which is a lot. It covers a lot, but I think that it's really, really important to discuss these embodied experiences across the levels of consciousness spectrum. So that's where I'm coming from. That's a bit of an overview of my work, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you all about this and hearing from the other women on the panel as well.
Thank you, Tara. Beautiful. And I guess when you talk later, you'll go, I think, deeper into how you're grounding those really high energy consciousness into everyday embodied awareness. That's, yeah.
I will. I'll say one last thing, because you were there at the scene of the the event, Alan. So Alan and I were at Amma's event at the Javits Center in New York City. And if you don't know who Amma is, it's absolutely worth checking out her work. She's essentially a living Hindu saint, very, very, very high vibrational being on the planet. And Alan was sitting next to me. And I immediately, I'm going to kind of adjust my chair here. It might make a noise because I want to demonstrate physically in an embodied way what was happening. So Alan was sitting here, and I felt the energy from Amma going into my crown chakra. And I immediately found myself going into eagle pose, like with my arms and legs, and bowing my head down. And I've done eagle pose thousands of times in a yoga class, and I never really, I think, fully understood what it was about. I thought it was about balance or doing something strange with your arms, but I naturally went into it in front of Amma, and Alan asked me, what I was doing there. I mean, we're in the Javits Center, and I'm in the eagle pose. And what was happening, I think, was that her energetic field was hitting my crown. And by going into eagle pose, it was helping me to integrate the energy as it was coming in. And it felt like the only natural position for me to be in. I wasn't comfortable physically being around that energy in any other position or asana, we can say. And so that was just a very interesting instance of using the body to integrate, we'll say, spiritual energy or consciousness.
Right. No, thank you, Tara. And you're a work in progress.
Very much am. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not trying to position myself as
No.
an friend or anything here.
No, I know you're not, but I think there's so much more coming. That's my feeling. You have so much more that's going to be downloaded. That's over as you evolve. I mean, that's just my feeling.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for being there for me during all of it.
Of course. It's exciting to watch someone, boom, wake up to these levels. And I'm just getting to know our next guest, Ashlea, who, you know, what's interesting about these three women is that they're all represent different generations, and they're all coming at the same subject from a little bit different point of view. You know, and Ashlea, what I know of you is that you're in nature a lot. You're sort of self-taught. You maybe even came in as a star seed where you knew you were connected. You know, you never lost that source energetic. But it would be nice to hear how you discovered this sort of embodied spirituality that you're also teaching and practicing and helping others with, and whatever else you want to add. It'd be great to hear from you. Thanks for being here.
Alan. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we're all, every single one of us are on that journey of the embodied spirit as the planet's fields organically shift through this new cycle. So we're all working through brand new embodiments, brand new instructions for how we create ourselves in space and time. I woke up through an experience with ETs. I was always psychic and awakened as a child. I could see things, feel things, hear things. It went dormant as a young adult. And then I had a very abrupt awakening through a contactee experience. They got me ready, told me what was going to be happening. I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, went through a lot of physical changes. My body broke out in this really aggressive rash. And I started to learn through my connection links with my team that I needed to shift some things. And it started with diet, nutrition, meditation to embody and handle the frequencies that were being projected into my human body. And I feel like there's a lot of changes happening with many of us. So what I noticed through my personal experience is I would go through different things at different times when I'm going through these physical changes to embody my spirit, to reclaim all the systems of my body, my bones, my skin, my sexual organs, my heart, like going so deep into the blood to embody the greatest light quota possible, the divinity, and to support my system, to increase my ATP levels. So there'd be times where I would need a lot of sleep. I would need a lot of rest. Certain foods I would completely cut out. Other foods would come in. It didn't make a lot of sense logically why I was being drawn and pulled into these different directions to recreate myself. But I knew intuitively and innately that this is what my body needed. One thing that helped me tremendously was cell salts with the nervous system. I think it was Alan that mentioned how he felt ETs can make neurological adjustments. And I would say that's absolutely correct, because through working with these contacts that I have around me that help support me through the work that I do, my nervous system needed to be as strong, as clean, and as pure as possible. So another part of that was really recognizing my fear at its root and working through that somatically through different movements. I remember I went through a series of Pilates. I went through a series where I was doing a lot of cardio. I went through a series of yoga. When Tara, when you shared your story, I felt it. I felt it. I felt like your crown was open and you were receiving a quantum download from that beautiful being. I think we all have that potential to be that embodied spirituality, and then your isness expands. You don't even have to do anything. It's just to embody that, you impact the entire world around you. You're manipulating space and time through your resonance. And I believe a huge portion of that is how we connect with our body, how we support our bones, our soft tissue, our mobility, to keep it moving, to be aware of where we are in space and time, meaning we're not leaving the body, but we're fully connected in with our senses and what we smell, what we taste. That embodiment through awareness helps you reclaim your body for divinity is what I would call it. And I found in my work that a lot of people, and myself included, have things within the instruction set of our body that disconnect us from the divine. So through intent and your heart and your willingness to embody the living light, you can change not only your physical body into a more harmonious, healthy state, but you can impact the world around you. You can actually change how reality responds to who you are through embodiment.
Well, one question I have, can you give us a practical kind of example and something everyone can do?
Oh yeah,
to
we
feel
can do
that
it right
spirit?
now.
Yeah,
We can do
let's
it right
do it.
now.
Let's do it.
So your breath is one of your greatest tools. Simply by noticing your breath, notice where you're sitting, your shoulders, the front of your body, the back of your body, the top of your head, the bottom of your feet. Feel your embodiment. So take a deep breath from the tips of your toes to the tips of your fingers. Set the intention that this body, this vessel, this vehicle of your soul is in full service to the divine. Just through intention and a consistent participation with that intention, you're going to naturally clear out what's in the way between you and the divine. That's your embodied spirituality. So you notice that seat that you might be sitting on. How does that feel? Notice a light around you or an object. Where are you? Where is that object? So you start really referencing where you are in space and time. This is also really good for empaths. If you pick up energy from the environment around you, if you have a hard time with crowds, know what's yours and what's not by referencing yourself. So notice your skin. Notice the sound as it enters into your body. Notice how your hands feel. Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your fingers and toes. That's your nervous system. Introduce yourself to the nervous system. If anyone's ever been triggered, if we know what a trigger is, where something happens and all of a sudden your nervous system, it flushes, wiggle your fingers and toes and take a deep breath in. You can reclaim yourself. That's the easiest, most practical tool, is just to reference where you are in space and time. And you can even reference your thoughts.
One more thing I would love for you to share is your connection to nature, because I think what you told me about your walking in nature and feeling nature was really, I really got you. You taught me something there. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, we're an extension of nature. Nature has a system, an extremely intelligent system that we can connect to. It's always open. Well, I don't want to say it's always loving, because I'll tell you, some trees and some plants are not the most, they're not the most friendly to keep it real. But yeah, my connection with nature, what Alan's asking me about is a story I told him, how I communicate with the trees when I go out in nature. I spend a lot of time in nature by myself, really calibrating my body to the natural harmonic frequencies of nature, which is always organized. There are no distortions. And what I've noticed about nature is nature's at the forefront of this global change, of this evolutionary point in human history, because the planet is ascending just as we are. So nature is amazing, phenomenal, loving, but it also can communicate with you. Nature has personality. And when you're tuned in with yourself, even just by using that gentle technique of noticing your body in space and time, you're going to naturally build higher sensory awareness to energetic fields. And then the trees start talking to you. And it's a whole different experience of life. So
How do you get the trees to talk to you? Just give us like, what do you say to a tree?
I actually will use physical words, but it's more like impressions. It's more impressions. I'll be on the trail and I'll see a tree. That tree is friendly. That tree wants to be touched. It wants to be held. It wants to be climbed. It's a giving tree. That is a tree that if you spend time with that tree, it's going to recharge you. It's got a welcoming, just the way it's created itself in space and time. It's got the perfect little spot for you to get up there and have a seat, read a book. Like it knows how to be a tree in its most perfect way. And it's a welcoming thing. The trees will also tell me if I need to go the other way. It's subtle. It's subtle, energetic awareness, and you trusting what you're feeling. That's what it is. So
I want to come in for a moment, Ashlea, just while you're talking about that. I'm going to share a personal experience, and I'm also going to read what Susan Bloomquist just wrote, because I want to start engaging our audience.
yeah.
Susan wrote, I always think people are supposed to connect to nature and care for the plants and animals that we find out there. We can care for the trees too. Lots of interactions are needed for people to help heal them. Absolutely. I mean, we're, I believe, meant to be here as caregivers and caretakers of the earth. And sadly, we've become more rapists of the earth.
Well,
Yeah.
one more thing, Scott.
Hang on a second, Alan. I wanted to share one more thing, if I may.
Sure.
I had an amazing experience with a tree once, and I've never shared this on this audience, so
I'm excited to hear it.
inspired me, actually. I live near Mount Tamalpais. It's a very sacred, beautiful mountain. And I was on one of my favorite trails, and there's a lot of redwoods. There's a huge redwood forest here. And there was a redwood that there had been a fire about 75 years ago. And there was still a lot of charred area of where that fire had affected it. And I really dropped in with the redwood tree. And what was amazing was in the redwood tree's reality, the fire had just happened. Because in redwood tree reality, they lived to be 1,000 to 2,000 plus years. So the fire was a recent event. In our reality, it was 75 years ago, but in its reality, it was recent. And then I kind of tapped in and saw, as human beings walked by, we were just like flashes of light. Because again, the timing is so different between redwood reality and our reality. And dropping into that deeper, slower timing was a very profound experience for me. So I've never shared that before, and you inspired me to say that.
That's really beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that.
I
Okay,
wanted to
go ahead,
just add, Scott, that we're on Zoom a lot. We live up in our heads, I mean, we've become this digital society, and we are walking around inside the earth. These earth bodies, they are of the earth. The consciousness may not be, but the bodies, it's this amazing biochemical, neurological spirit in action. And loving the body, not in an egotistic way, but in honoring is so important for the embodiment of being embodied, honoring every part of your body, loving everything you see, hear, taste. I mean, that invigorates us with more energy. And yeah, I just keep reminding, we're inside the earth. These are, the earth is nurturing the soul that is trying to evolve through a three-dimensional reality.
Yep. Hey, I want us to get to our third gal.
Oh, I didn't know she was here. Okay,
And
great.
Melissa Love has arrived, so please introduce us to our third and final guest.
Okay, actually, Melissa, I don't actually see her on the screen, but
Bring her up.
okay. There she is, the lovely Melissa Love, who I probably know longer and better than the previous two. We almost grew up together. No, I've known Melissa since we both got to New York in 1980, whenever that was, or maybe you were here early. But Melissa is very embodied in her spirituality. She was a doula. She's the mother of 4 children. Her last child, I don't think you'd mind me sharing, was birthed in an orgasm, and that's embodied spirituality. When you, I guess I haven't had that experience, but when you birth a child in that bliss state, and actually I know that child, I know her son, and he is a beautiful being. And I think, don't you think, Melissa, that being born into that space of consciousness of joy actually affected who he was? And so she's also a great spiritual practitioner. She studied many Hindu traditions. She's a good friend. She's a tantrika. She's a therapist. She's a QHHC, past life therapy. She's done many things that make her, I think, one of the most qualified people I know to talk about embodied spirituality. So thanks, Melissa, for being here. Unmute, and then, okay. Oh, there. We got it. You got it?
Melissa, we want to hear from you.
Oh, after that great introduction.
I know, that's a wonderful introduction. And
well, no, there's a lot more to it.
well, I'll read a couple of audience questions while Melissa gets her audio working.
Yes.
Actually, it looks like we actually lost her. I think
she may be resetting her audio thing, but why don't you read some of the questions and then she'll come back.
I will. All right. So our dear Jeffrey writes, if you want to get your mind blown about the body, come join us at the International Space Federation and plug into William Brown, amazing mind and of quantum biology. And by the way, Jeffrey, you'll be happy to know that Dr. Kat Lewis will be one of our presenters this Saturday night. So thank you for introducing me to Dr. Kat. She'll be back on. Melissa, can you unmute and speak with us? You need to unmute. It's showing that you're muted. So you got to go to your unmute button. There you go.
Good.
Still can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Okay, well, while you continue to work on that, I'm going to just read a few more comments. And we'll, as soon as you can speak, we'll hear you and we'll go to you. Yeah, George, we can have George Noble, who does reads sign, we'll have him do it. Okay. Susan writes, Susan S., we have 3 Susans always, but Susan S. writes, I hugged a tree and my consciousness transformed. What an amazing, unforgettable experience. Very powerful. Thank you, Susan, for sharing that. Tara writes, before my awakening, my therapist tried to get me to connect with a tree. I felt like I was connecting with a plastic bag. However, after her awakening, I was walking by that same tree and my jaw dropped. I literally hugged it. So definitely, I think we want to hear about your awakening. That sounds pretty interesting. Scotty Satori writes, I communicate with my daughter through her tree and mine whenever I am. And Sweet Sylvia sends me photos of her tree friends and shares them with me. Talking about trees in the listening field, I met Donna Leah in person. We were all at Pato and Antoinette's concert in Golden Gate Park on Sunday. And I finally met Donna Leah in person. Donna Leah is who leads the listening field, where she helps us drop in and communicate and connect primarily to trees, usually maybe a substantial tree in our life. So
I think it's working now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I am so sorry about that. Okay, Alan, thank you for that lovely introduction. Am I good?
You're good, and we would
Okay.
love to hear kind of what your
Go for it.
are.
So yes, I think that in terms of embodiment and all that, it really all the sexual energy that took to produce 4 children really got grounded with that last birth experience where it was an unusual birth for me. I had had home births. This child was not a home birth. It was this was a breech child. This was a breech baby, and I was in the hospital for the first time, just left alone to really be able to go inside, go into a very, very deep place within. And in that place, I went up into the cosmos, into, I don't know where, but I went to someplace completely different than I had ever been before. And with such very intense sensations in my body, that at one point just switched from intense agony in a way to intense pleasure. And it was nothing I tried to do. It was nothing I knew that could happen, but he was born in an orgasmic state. And as that was happening, I became the mother that he needed. I really believe that when women are pregnant, those 9 months are the time that is needed for them to really go through that process, to be the mother that they need to be. And in the birth process itself of the labor and delivery, she becomes the mother that child really needs. And out of my 4 children, this one child is different than the rest. And he's much more sensitive and present in a way that the others aren't. And they're all beautiful and wonderful, but he's definitely different. That birth experience led me to become a doula and work with other women. And in the process of doing that, I became a hypnotherapist, teaching hypnosis for childbirth to help women. I found a vehicle that would give me a method to teach other women what I went through. And that worked for a little while. And then thank you, Alan, very much for introducing me to my guru that I didn't know I needed to have a guru. But when I was given a initiation into a mantra, 3 days into the mantra, my whole world changed. And I got the download on how to do sexual healing. And it was very much the kind of situation with, I didn't know it at the time, but everything in life had led to that moment. And so from one day to the next, I knew how to work with sexual energy in a way that was not just with my husband, but was with anybody. And that was 25 years ago. So it's been a very long and interesting journey, and it's taken me to India and Nepal and one of the highest points in the Himalayas, all in search of not just the energy of divinity, but the consciousness of expansion. And I've had several experiences where my consciousness just completely expands out into the universe, as if there's a giant umbrella that opens, and I see control systems that are put in place to keep humanity tethered, so to speak, into a matrix of dysfunction. And seeing that and understanding that that there are puppet masters. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, but I certainly have, where I saw puppet masters and things happening to control people, and then seeing what happens in the world from that perspective is very interesting.
Well,
So a lot of my work is about kind of detangling that, or breaking that down for people to really understand who they are, to understand the essence of who they are, because what we are is not that matrix. What we are is the matrix of the divine, not the
Right.
matrix of control.
One more piece, Melissa. Can you talk about how you work with mantras and pujas and your, in a way, daily practice to what I feel really clear your energy fields, which
Yeah, well, okay. So I got that first mantra 25 years ago, and I probably know a million mantras. And this is a yantra. So mantras and yantra are become tantra in the Hindi system, and I have several of those, and it's about work. And the mantra is a energetic representation of the geometry of the yantra, and putting that together creates tantra, which is not neo-tantra sexual moving sexual energy. Tantra is a huge body of work that is all about energetics and elements, and when we embody the elements, we can hold the energy of those elements, and we can be embodied more. So in this first practice that I did with Sri Swami Kaleshwar, who Alan introduced me to, it's all about being able to hold the energy of the divine. And in doing that, you have to work with the elements, so balance the elements in your body to hold the energy. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and what I would like to ask is, I'd like to start getting into kind of practical examples. So maybe in a moment, Melissa, I'm going to go to Ashlea because she did say something interesting, but I'd love for us to ask all of you maybe to share some specific examples of clients that you've worked with. And for example, with you, Melissa, what does sexual healing really look like? What does that really mean? Because perhaps some of the people in our audience might be interested in actually working with any of you to work on their beautiful body temples. But I'm going to bring up Ashlea because she put something interesting in the chat box, which was that she had had a similar experience.
Yes, I resonate with what you're sharing and the work you do. When you mentioned the puppet masters, I personally experienced how sexual energy is the most manipulated, and reclaiming those energy centers is some of the most challenging work that I've found.
So, for example, then for all of you, then, for any of the people in our audience who have felt sexually controlled or manipulated, or have been sexually molested or abused, what are some of the ways that you provide sexual healing? Because the sad truth is statistics tell us 1/3 of all women have been molested before the age of 18, and half of women have had some sort of a date rape or molestation experience. I mean, it's a cultural epidemic. So no doubt there are women in the audience right now who've had that experience. What are some ways that each of you can provide to work with healing that? Obviously, it's a homeopathic dose, but I'd love to bring that to the forefront here.
Melissa, how do you work? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So not to put blame on anybody, but everything in life is karmic. Your relationships are karmic. We create karma. We're born into karma. We have karma that we haven't completed in a past life. So everything that we experience, one could say, is a karmic experience. So a theme that has been coming through my QHHT sessions, and QHHT is quantum healing hypnosis technique. And it's a technique that was developed by Dolores Cannon. And that technique is about taking a person into a past life or several past lives, seeing what there is to see and know and experience that is pertinent to what is going on for you now. And then what makes this technique different than other regression techniques is that we call in the higher self. The higher self, everyone has a higher self, and there's a higher self collective. And when the higher self comes through, the higher self does a full body scan and healing on the person's body, mind, spirit, heart, and soul. And in that space of that part of the session, when the higher self is doing that healing, I ask questions that the client has brought in and wants to know about. And so the higher self is doing that healing and answering questions at the same time through the voice of my client. The theme that is coming through a lot lately is that with questions about karma is this. The higher self says, stop thinking about the old experience. It's over and it's done. The karma is clear, but the more you think about it, the more you make it real, and the karma stays. So one way to release karma is to let it really go. Let the story go. Let the energy of that story go, and be in the space of your truth of who you are right now. So I think I'm off track a little bit. Did I?
Sexual healing.
So in terms of sexual healing, one thing to do when there's trauma and drama from past experiences, whether in this lifetime or another, is to let that story go. Let the story go, be done with it, find a way to release the story so you can be free of it. And in doing that, you release the karma, and then you get embodied in your body. You feel your body. You feel the feelings in your body. You feel the sensations. When you focus on your sensations, just like Ashlea said, when you focus on your breath and your skin, you're here. So focusing on sensations with the breath allows the sensations to move through the body, the sensations of arousal, the sensations that feel good in the body. If you're sexually aroused and you breathe that arousal through your body, this is tantric, this is Taoist technique. You breathe that sensation through your body, through the pathways in your body. That energy then is like an internal power wash. It's your sexual energy, which is your life force. And as you move that energy through your body, it clears the stuck places. And in doing that, you can have self-healing. And there are many techniques for facilitating that. But what I do with my clients, one of the things I do with my clients is help them get into their skin, into their arousal, into the positive and good feeling sensations in the body, connect the breath to that, breathe the breath through the body, and there's an automatic healing that happens. And then there are techniques that can embellish all that, but that's basically one of the things that I do. And energy work as well, or hands-on healing stuff.
You know, two of those things, Scott, really stood out. The idea that you can breathe the aliveness of being into the body, but also just letting things go. Maybe not just sexual, but emotional stuff that comes up, and, you know, the past. And it's like, what did you say, Melissa? Who you are now? Like, be who you are now. That was so good for me to hear.
What I want to do, because we're well past the midway point of the show. So, people, put your questions in. I'll check Facebook, see what's coming in on Facebook, because it's time for us to get our mid-show song from Omashar. And then I would love, again, practical practical tools. How do we let go? I mean, it's easy to say, let go, right? I think most of us want to let go of stuff, except for people who, play victim to get their needs met, which is that's another show. But for those of us who do want to let go of emotional pain, of scars, of deep wounding, what are some of the ways to do that? So we're going to get back to that question and other questions that come in from the audience after our mid-show song from Omashar.
Felt alone for oh so many years, held my head high to hide the pain, nowhere to turn, so to myself again tune my heart to the mother. I am one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. I am one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. Time has come to wake my sleepy head and peel back the sheets of illusion. The time has come to lift my voice once more and sing the songs of a new world. I am one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. I am one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. Time has come. The time has come.
Wow, that song really, I love that song. I was singing along with it, but it hit me in a big way today, Omashar. Who else was singing along and really feeling it today?
It hit me too as well because up to 3 minutes before I sang it, I had a completely different song worked out, and I was feeling the tone of the show and where we were going, and I was feeling it so deeply, and I just quickly dialed that one in. So we're in tune with each other here. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I want to say something, and then of course we're going to get to that very important question to our guests. But of course, over the last 10 days, so much of my focus has been listening to people's reflections about the election. And your song is kind of what most people have come to. It's like we have to remember that we are one with all. It is God experiencing itself through Omashar, through Ashlea, through Melissa, through Alan, through Donald Trump, through everybody. It is God experiencing itself, and we are one with all. And to hold that and not get lost in the polarization, not get lost in the beliefs that were being fed from the media. And so that song, as I heard, was like, that is like the central organizing principle, really, of what most people I respect are reminding us to do and to think.
It's an amazing thing because as I witness, generally polarized people don't talk to each other. But in these forums, we've all been talking to each other from the left to the right to the center to the central. And I find that as these pieces come into my consciousness, the truth of who I am listens to that truth and distills it and brings me up. And so, yes, thank you for that recognition, Scott.
It's beautiful. I've got chills. Okay, back to our wonderful, wonderful guests and that fantastic question. How do we let things go? How do we let it go? So I'll bring up Melissa and Ashlea and Tara, and love to hear really all of you respond to that question. What are you, Tara? You must have turned your
I would
camera.
like to share
Okay.
Ho'oponopono.
Uh-huh.
So a practical way that something you can do at home, it's easy. Maybe find out where that unresolved emotion resides. Are you angry? Are you regretful? Are you sad? Are you holding on to anything in your reproductive organs? I would find a photo of where that is in the body so you can focus on it. And then I would use Ho'oponopono, where you actually create a little bit of dialogue with that part of you to help release and let go some of that stagnant energy.
So tell us a little bit. I mean, of course, some of us are familiar with it, but what are the four phrases of Ho'oponopono?
Oh boy, let me think if I can. I think it's I love you. I forgive you. Thank you. There's one more.
Well, I think it's please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
Okay, please forgive me. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank
I
you.
love you. I'm sorry.
Okay, go let Melissa Melissa's gonna tell us what the Ho'opono is.
Melissa, you got it.
Well, I sometimes get the sequence wrong, but I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There it is. There it is. So you can play Ho'oponopono while repeating it in your words and focusing on the organ, maybe the liver if you're angry, maybe the heart if you really need to forgive, maybe your reproductive organs if there's some imbalances there.
Beautiful. Dr. Tara, we haven't heard from you for a while, so I'm going to bring you up for what you'd like to share.
Hi, thank you, Scott. So I have a little bit more of a kind of clinical opinion on one hand, and then another opinion that involves maybe some, we'll say, more advanced consciousness skills like remote viewing. So to start really simply, a technique that I really like to use is something called square breathing. If you're not familiar with square breathing, it's really simple. And the idea of it is not just to necessarily be mindful, but to kind of manipulate your breath in a way that calms the body down physiologically. So it goes a little something like this. You can breathe in for 4 counts through your nose, hold it for 4 counts, and then let it out for 4 counts through your mouth, and hold it out for 4 counts. And then repeat. And really, I mean, already just doing this one time, I kind of feel my body coming down. So when we're in an aroused and anxious state, so arousal in the kind of aversive sense rather than pleasurable sense in this case, what we want to do is actually decrease air in the body, because when we're anxious, we take on more air, and if we're not running, we're not using the air. So if you've ever seen movies, for instance, when people are really anxious and they're on planes and they breathe into one of those plastic bag, or not plastic bags, but paper bags, it's actually to decrease the oxygen. So square breathing is a really helpful technique for when you're feeling so uncomfortable in your body or you're feeling triggered, you can just bring yourself right back into your body. So that's kind of, we'll say, like consciousness level 1, when you're in that fear state, what you can use. From there, something called exposure therapy is kind of the tried and true method. And this is one of those, like, don't do it at home kinds of things, but to do it with a licensed therapist. It's really helpful to let go of this trauma actually by going into it and then releasing it. So kind of recreating or reimagining a trauma, feeling all the emotions, breathing through it, and then unhooking yourself from it, releasing yourself from it, letting it go, not avoiding it, not pushing it away, not running away from it, but in a very kind of Chinese finger trap way, going into the experience to then release yourself from it. So those are the kind of basic evidence-based treatment recommendations for letting go of sexual trauma. But then just of course an overview, but speaking from my personal experience, and the very last exercise that I engaged in before my rather dramatic awakening was that I didn't know what I was doing at the time. Alan actually is the person that helped me to understand and contextualize what I was doing. But I had put myself into this prolonged 2-hour meditation where I now know that I was remote viewing myself through the experience of somebody else back in time, and experiencing myself through them and realizing that I was a walking trigger for this person, and they didn't know how to engage with other people in a way that was not abusive. And so by experiencing myself through this person's perspective, I understood, again, experientially, that we really are one. My person and they're the separate person. Our consciousness is actually one. And it is my ego that is creating a separation between us out of fear. On another one of the Global Peace Tribes shows, I explain this as a block. So when we feel victimized by somebody, what I believe happens is that we create a block in the fabric of the collective consciousness. And we other somebody. They have hurt me. I am a victim. And so therefore I am going to separate myself from them. But if you can merge your consciousness, if you feel safe and powerful enough to actually merge consciousness with the person that you feel separate from, then in my experience, that is the single most thing that can release you from your ego, from fear, from victimhood, and elevate your level of consciousness, again, quite dramatically. At least it was for me. So it takes quite a lot of foundational skills to get to the place where, at least speaking from personal experience, where I was ready to do that. So I had learned all the basic breathing techniques, done exposure therapy, done letting go, read all of the books and was in a support group, all of these things. And then I felt that I had a handle on the 3D enough to do that. And so if that is something that is interesting to you, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to kind of walk you through that process. But Scott, as you suggested earlier, really getting out of that victimhood mentality is, in my experience, something that can be extremely, extremely empowering for a woman, to realize that sexual abuse is not your fault. It's something that it happens because of a breakdown in the societal system, combining with somebody else's inability to understand their own ego and impulses. and really take a compassionate perspective there. It's hard to do, but it can be done. And that's really a way to live in an embodied, recovered, high consciousness way.
Thank you. You know, I actually am going to come in and answer this question myself because I'm a coach and I spend all day helping people let go of pain. And here's the thing, we've all had wounding. We've all had disillusionment. We've all been hurt. The key, and kind of you've referenced this, is to acknowledge the pain and acknowledge where in our body is the pain. Maybe you store it, sometimes we store it in our butt, sometimes we store it in our tummy, sometimes it's in our heart, sometimes it's in our throat. Really find the places where that particular pain, where we keep running a story, I'm going to get back to story in a moment, where we keep running a story about someone who hurt us. Okay, where is that in the body? Find it. And then get in touch with which of your needs or your values were not met by that experience. Maybe your value for safety, your value for trust, your value for respect. Make a list of the 2 or 3 major values, or you could also say universal human needs, that were not met by that event. And where is it in the body? And then purge. Just like, you know, how all of us have, sometimes we ate something bad, our stomach says, I gotta puke. We go, I don't want to puke. We gotta puke. We puke and we feel better. Purge it. Literally imagine that you're moving that pain, and you can move it through crying, through pounding a pillow, I do jumping jacks, right? That's what I do. I do jumping jacks. Sound and movement, by the way. You got to make sound while you're doing the movement to move it out. And literally imagine that you're purging that pain from the place where it's stuck in your throat, stuck in your heart. And you move it until you can literally feel empty space in that place in your body. And then once you can feel empty space in the body, go back to those unmet needs. Let's say it was safety and respect. And remember times when you did feel safe, or right now in present time, usually we're safe. And fill that empty space with the knowing that you were safe. Fill that empty space with memories of when you felt very well respected, and you know that you are indeed worthy of respect. So we're moving it out of our body, and we're filling those unmet needs, those unmet values that are, when we're alive, back in. And then discipline yourself not to keep running the story. There's what happened to us, but that's not who we are. It's an experience that we had. Mourn, acknowledge it, don't stuff it, but notice if you're still running a story that keeps you, like she said earlier, locked into that drama. Because sometimes we take on our pain as a story of who we are. And I'll give a last analogy and then go back to our guests. If you are running a story, and most of us do run painful stories, I want you to imagine it as a scratchy sweater. And it's scratchy, it's uncomfortable. But you've been wearing that scratchy sweater for so long, it's kind of become familiar. It's kind of like, well, it's my scratchy sweater. Yeah? And it's time to take off the scratchy sweater. And it's a little bit courageous, because then we're naked. Then we're vulnerable again. We don't have that scratchy sweater protecting us. Take off the scratchy sweater. Stop running this story. That's a short version of what usually takes an hour to walk my clients through. But I just felt like I had to share it, given the direction the show has gone into. And I now open it up. I remove the spotlight to anything that any of you would like to share. I'll spotlight all of our guests and see who wants to add or riff.
I can add something.
Okay.
So I'm really glad that you mentioned God a little while ago, Scott. because we can ask God to help us, and God will help. And we can ask God to help us feel worthy, and God will help us feel worthy. And it's when we're feeling a lack of self-worth where we can get stuck in those endless loops of getting validation from feeling bad about something that happened to us. So just want to remind everybody, whether you believe in God or not, ask God for help. But I have, just to add on to what you were saying, I have a very short, condensed little technique that I just learned. That's a much shorter version of a technique called a Taoist technique, a Qigong technique called the inner smile. And in the inner smile, you feel good about something, you bring in light and you bring in love, and you send that into every organ. So I can take everybody through a very quick technique to do that, if that's okay.
Please do.
Good. So say you have done those jumping jacks or done something to release, or say you just feel stuck anyway and you don't want to jump around. Find something that gives you happiness. Find something that has given you happiness in the past. It could be a puppy. It could be a good feeling with somebody else. And really embellish that feeling, embellish that good feeling, and then take that good feeling and send it into your brain. And send a smile with that good feeling into your brain. And then take that good smile, that good feeling and that smile, and send it into your heart, and smile into your heart. And do that with every organ. And bring it from the top of your head all the way down to the bottoms of your feet as well. And that can have a remarkable effect on how you feel, because your organs are living inside of you. They're living beings inside of you that have a lot of energy, and they have a lot of wisdom and information. And the organs get hurt too. And the organs will hold the pain and suffering and the disease. So that's one way to really clear the organ, by sending love into the organ. And you start doing it with a smile, the inner smile. Send yourself some love to the organs. And that's a little quick technique.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Jerry Anderson, I'm going to read a couple comments. And Sylvia, if you're wanting to speak, just give me a thumbs up. That's why you've got your hand up. Okay. So Jerry Anderson writes, one time in a sacred plant ceremony, I was shown the largest obstacle to entering heaven was unworthiness. I'm going to interpret that to mean when we have a perception, a self-concept that's shameful, a self-concept that there's something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with anybody. Nobody is broken. We're all divine emanations of God, whatever you want to call it, the infinite, the universe, life itself. Susan Bloomquist writes, focusing on organs while feeling emotions certainly brings people into the now. Exactly. Okay. And Ashlea wrote, I like to drive in my car and scream it out on occasion. The shift is tremendous and palpable. It feels like a wonderful release. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do a short meditation towards the end, which we're getting close to. All right, Sylvia, I'm putting you on camera for your question or your thought.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Melissa and Ashlea and Tara and Scott and Omashar. And a practice that we've been doing as a community recently has been praying with and for specific people through raising our hands and sharing healing energy. And so this is two-part. One is I invite each of the speakers tonight to reflect on how you experience this practice and tell us about it afterwards. And I would like to invite all of us to share this practice now with the wounded and the radiant parts of ourselves, to help them be more aligned. And in doing that, I'm going to tone Om 3 times, and if you wish to do that also as you're muted, you're welcome to. Melissa, I think you're actually unmuted right now, so, and Ashlea. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Tara, would you like to lead us on a meditation? And then we'll take a last look at each of you, and each of you can share a little bit about how we can learn more, take a look at your websites. But I would love for you to lead a meditation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. And thank you, Sylvia. Just to, for a moment, acknowledge Lynn McTaggart's amazing work in our field and in consciousness, that we can get together in groups of 8, small groups, and meditate to heal one another physically, but also psychologically, spiritually, etc. And so if you have a community already, yes, doing these Power of 8 meditations, setting the intention to heal from these sexual traumas, is absolutely something that we could do. I'm not sure if she studied that specifically as an application, but why not? So thank you, Sylvia, for that. And I'd love to lead us as well. It was Alan's suggestion. He messaged me to lead us in a meditation to reprogram the mind away from victimhood and towards higher consciousness. So I invite you now, if it feels right for you, to settle into your seat. Get your spine up straight and your crown towards the sky. And if it feels right for you, close your eyes or pick a spot to focus on. Bringing your attention to your breath. It's gentle rising and falling. And stepping into the witness seat. Noticing how you're feeling in this moment. And taking the time right here, right now, to become embodied. Feel your consciousness in and around your body. And bringing your attention to your heart center. Allowing feelings of love and gratitude to well up in your chest and expand. Expand out into the field, connecting us to one another. Setting the intention now to rewire the programming of our mind out of victimhood and into higher consciousness. In doing this, we move out of fear, out of past traumas and pains. And into our embodied power. Knowing that we are not victims, but here to transmute that trauma and pain into forgiveness and healing and oneness. Feeling that oneness. And being in that oneness. And knowing that you can take this feeling with you. It doesn't simply have to be in this meditative state, that you feel it and experience it. But that here in this moment, you are rewiring your consciousness towards higher awareness, that we are all one. And with that consciousness, interacting with everyone in your day-to-day life, regardless of political affiliation, or whether they're a victim or oppressor or however they define themselves, but that it is your role to bring this unity consciousness into the third dimensional world. Taking a moment now to offer yourself gratitude for doing this practice. And remembering that if you find yourself slipping back into victimhood, that this is always available to you and you can return to it.
Mhm.
Taking a moment now to integrate the experience of being at this higher state of consciousness while being embodied. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back into the room.
Hmm.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
I don't know what you said, but it all felt so good.
Doesn't matter.
We're at that time where I get to show people a little bit more of how to get each of our wonderful people here. So Dr. Tara has a website, which I'm going to right now. And it is imt-ed.com.
I'm going to unmute here. So this is my eating disorder website for folks who are interested specifically in eating disorder treatment, but probably not exactly the right crowd. It's more for adolescents.
Oh, okay. That's all I had for you. Where do I take people?
Okay, I'm going to go all the way back up to the top of the chat. So the best website for me is stepintohigherconsciousness.com. I just put it in the chat.
Okay, there it is. I'm pulling it up so people can see it. There it is. Stepintohigherconsciousness.com. Wow, and there's a 3-step method for raising consciousness.
It's right there. And there's also a Udemy course that's listed on this website and also in the chat on body image, if that's something you're really interested in. And last but not least, I just started doing what's called prompt engineering work for a company called Yuna, Y-U-N-A, and you can find them at yuna.io. And what that is creating an AI actually that can help teach therapeutic tools. Now, I think everybody here knows that if we could connect to a person as a healer, that is definitely the preferred method. The reason why I started doing this kind of work is because there are people all over the world who don't have access to services. So for instance, in Pakistan, it's a country of 240 million people, and there are exactly around 300 therapists total in the entire country, and lots of trauma. And so for countries like this, we can provide really amazing tools. And even for people here in the US or wherever, if you'd like a little extra support. So it's something that I know is a little controversial, but we're really trying to do this ethically and to help people around the world who don't have access to resources. So if you'd like to check it out, that organization is called una.io. And if you email me at my email address, and I'll type it in here, it's just my name, tara.deliberto@gmail.com. If you'd like to check that out, I can send you a promo code. And after the 3-month free trial, you can get a discount.
Say it slowly, because a lot of people are not able to go into the Zoom room. Most people are watching on Facebook. So slowly, please, your email address for those people.
It's Tara, TARA .Deliberto, DELIBERTO @gmail.com.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tara. It's always a pleasure. I know you'll be back on again soon. Thank you for the wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to Ashlea. And Ashlea, what final thoughts would you like to share?
Oh, there was so much amazing wisdom that was just shared in this community. My final thoughts are to remind you of the power you have in the present moment to shift the trajectory of your life.
Thank you. Wow. And you can get more of Ashlea by going to her name. It's Ashlea, Ashlea Piefer, Piefer. She's the Pied Piper of spiritual awakening and mindfulness journey.
And I do have free resources on my website to help people, like the just foundational tools. A lot of those tools we actually went over today. If you go to the top, there's a resources tab, and those are really great foundational tools that are free.
And I'm looking at the Mastering Mindfulness, Fear Release Exercise, Becoming the Observer, and Protecting Your Peace. Beautiful. Ashlea, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, everyone.
For the generosity of all those wonderful things you're providing. Thank you. And finally, we go to Melissa Love. Hello, Melissa. What final thought would you like to share?
I would like to share that remember that you are loved, and that self-love is the balm that cures all ills. So when you breathe in self-love into all of your cells get filled with self-love. You talk self-love into a glass of water and you drink that, you become that love. So just to remind everybody that love is all there is, and make the best of it. Call it in.
When calling in self-love, do you recommend I am affirmations?
I recommend just calling in self-love. You can use affirmations for sure, but I guide my clients to breathe self-love in through the nose, through the nostrils, breathe it into the brain, saturate the brain with unconditional self-love. Completely saturate the brain with unconditional self-love. Send it down, let it trickle down into the heart. Let the heart be filled with unconditional self-love, and from there it will trickle down into every cell in the body. And you can attach sunlight to that and bring self-love in through sunlight. And everything is carried by the breath. So when we have that intention to either connect with self-love or use an affirmation and bring it into the body through the breath, it will infuse the body with all of that intention.
Beautiful. Melissa can also be found at her website, which is her name, melissalove.com, melissalove.com. And she also has lots of resources. It's a very elaborate website. And if you're interested in booking a session, just click book a session. And is there a particular demographic group that you most enjoy working with, Melissa?
Men and women.
Okay, my dog is feeling a little bit left out, but otherwise I think you covered the bases quite well. Thank you,
Thank
Melissa.
you.
And I'm going to go to the central organizing principle here, which is Alan Steinfeld.
Thank you, Scott. It's everything everyone said. I got a little piece for my own evolution, and it's interesting. We talked about embodied spirituality, but the under theme was self-love, and that self-love helps us embody. It helps us appreciate this beautiful world more, and we're so assaulted by the forces of the world, and if we can, and our nourishment is that self-love that actually invigorates not just our mind and emotions, but our body too. The inner smile, this appreciation for who we are and what we have to offer. And this was a very nice, warming, reminding show of who we are, how to come together in our uniqueness and in our community to support each other. So thank you for doing this. Thanks for taking the suggestions, Scott, and running with it. I like what you shared too. I like that, and it's always good to see some good friends. My good friend Nuya's been here, and a bunch of people are online a lot. So I love this community. We are the Global Peace Tribe, and we're really, and my friends Melissa and Tara, Ashlea are part of this community now. So you're welcome here. So thanks, Scott.
Welcome to the Global Peace Tribe, and thank you again, Alan. And as I put the spotlight on our beloved Omashar, I want us to take a moment and just bless him, because he's about to take a big trip with a lot of baggage all the way to Peru and all the way back. So let's just hold the vision of maximum grace, safe travels, magical times, magical experiences, and being back with us 3 shows from now. Maximum grace for Omashar.
Thank you so much. And it's, I mean, there's many favorite places of mine on the planet, but in the Sacred Valley down in South America, automatically you're kind of already in the frequency more of the heart from my perspective. And also we'll be mainly in between 8 and 14,000 feet for the whole of the event. And once I find that once you're above 7,000 feet, the effluvia of the general human consciousness is actually kind of gone almost completely once you're about 8,000 feet. And so you're much more able to tune in to the authenticity of your own self. And thank you for that. And you will be all in my heart throughout the whole journey. I feel us all. So thank you for this moment, beloved brother. Is it song time, or we got some Peace Tribe?
You know what? Go ahead and do the song, because I've got to get ready for the Global Peace Tribe announcement. So
all righty then. I think we can groove to this one a little bit. And I really have loved our guests tonight, Tara and Ashlea and Melissa and Alan. The wisdom shared in each of these shows just get more and more distilled. There's less words and there's more transmission. And I feel just tingles go through my body at the recognition, and it's polishing myself up, allowing my soul to shine through more, allowing my head to get out of the way, and knowing that we're all going in the right direction. So, all right.
What we are is light in form, and light in form will lift us all. So don't give up on walking tall. The time is now, so heed the call. Wake up to the light of this new day. Because we are the heart of our world, the light in our world. We are the joy in our world, the love in our world. Showing our colors, Rainbow Nation, higher frequency, higher vibration. Minds are open, love is flowing, lifting each other, and yes, we are growing. What we are is light in form, and light in form will lift us all. So don't give up on walking tall. The time is now, so heed the call, and wake up to the light of this new day. We are the heart of our world, the light in our world. We are the joy in our world, the love in our world. We are the heart of our world, the light in our world. We are the joy in our world, the love in our world.
Fantastic. One last time, we're going to gallery review to Twinkle Omashar.
Mhm.
And so much love. Thank you. I love that song. All three songs, you rocked them. They're like all some of my favorite songs.
Thank you, brother.
Absolutely. And have a very, very safe and wonderful trip.
Well, thank you.
Well, at that time where we're concluding, I do not have a poster because we're still adding people, but Saturday night we've got some really amazing people coming on. Viviane Chauvet is going to be with us. Since Omashar won't be with us, we've got two musical artists. Peter Sterling and his harp will be playing music, and Fantuzzi, that wild man, is going to be with us as well. Also, Dr. Tara will be coming back to speak with us. Lori Layden, who does amazing service work. So it's going to be kind of a remarkable conversations with interesting people kind of a night. And that's going to be this Saturday night. So I wanted to let everybody know that our beloved Summer Joy is at it again. She is doing a Garden of Joy 81 days dancing challenge. I put it into the chat box where you can learn all about it. She is inviting us to dance every day. And she does it at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And so come and join her for some dancing. And it's really kind of a fun thing. She's pretty amazing. It's every day just for even if it's only 10 minutes from 30 minutes. And here, I'll bring up, it took me a moment to find it. Uh-oh, my camera just froze. This happened to me the other night. Here we go. So if you go to, oh, my camera is being wonky. All right, I'm not gonna try sharing. It's in the chat box. Go to oneworld.earth. Oh, there it is. Okay, it looks like it might be showing. Sorry, my whole computer just froze up. Thank goodness the show is about to end, because I don't even know what you guys are seeing right now.
We can see it.
But okay. God's blessings. Love you all. Have a wonderful, safe trip over Shar. And I look forward to hopefully seeing all of you on Saturday night. Beautiful, beautiful week. God's blessings. And good
Thank you,
night.
Scott. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely being here with everyone.
Thank you. You guys.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Nice
everybody.
to meet you, Tara.
Thank you so much.
Likewise.
And Ashlea. Nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you, Lee.
Thanks.